right, well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today to talk about a very important issue, accountability. You know, when Albertans are in danger or in a time of crisis, they trust that the police will respond to their call in order to help them. This trust is built by police being transparent with the communities that they serve, by responding to calls of service and helping people in need. However, within the last few years, the calls to action that police have been responding to have become significantly more complex. Police are responding to complex calls that may involve vulnerable Albertans that are experiencing mental health crisis, suffering from addiction, or having difficult moments in their life that is clouding their decision-making skills. Society is shifting, and so the demand of professionalism of police serving them, it is also time now for change. Change that will build relationships between communities and the police that serve them through mutual trust in one another. Change that will result in all Albertans being safe and secure in their homes, at school, at work, whether they live in large cities or in small rural or Indigenous communities. Alberta's government is undertaking a transformational change to how we approach policing across the province to ensure that the public has trust that the police will respond to calls while providing officers with confidence and the right tools to assist those in need. This transformational change is about a paradigm shift, as police are no longer seen as an arm of the state, but rather an extension of the community that they serve, as well as being a reflection of that community as well. In order to become an effective extension of the community, there must be trust, oversight, accountability that need to be built between communities and the police serving them. The demand for transparency has never been more clear. The desire for policing services to be committed to ensuring that they are worthy of the trust that we put in them to protect the public is high. And Albertans, I hear you. This government hears you. That is why I am pleased to announce today that Alberta's government is taking steps to increase accountability and trust in policing by mandating the use of body-worn cameras for all police services in the province of Alberta. Building trust between the police and the police serving the community is a central and most essential part of the transformational change that we are undertaking in Alberta. We will increase public trust in our policing with body-worn cameras on all law enforcement officers across the province. Body-worn cameras create greater accountability while providing a first-person view of what a police officer encounters in a highly dynamic, intense situation. We believe that mandating the use of body-worn cameras will help strengthen public safety by documenting the behavior of the police in public, collecting better evidence, and improving our approach to resolving complex complaints during investigations. They represent an objective measure to show what occurs in the moment by holding all parties accountable for their actions. And they will provide a factual and objective and detailed review of the event, ultimately helping save time and money related to court investigations. This can lead to quicker and easier court cases where there are questions of what occurred by either party during an encounter with the police and the public. This will also help to ensure that violent criminals will be prosecuted and will face justice and serve time for their crime. Police will know that, taking appropriate action and using the right amount of force is required in every incident. And police officers that use excessive force will face proper discipline thanks to body camera footage. The public can rest assured that police protecting their communities are being held to the highest standards about the use of force. Body-worn cameras will strengthen the two-way relationship of trust that is needed between the police and the public so that they can be seen and felt as that extension of the community and the reflection of the community, as I have previously mentioned. Community policing can only be successful once this two-way relationship is built with accountability, transparency, and oversight. The Ministry of Public Safety and Emergency Services will be working with our law enforcement agency partners on funding, logistics, and rollout. I've tasked the Police Standards Committee of the Alberta Association of Chiefs of Police to develop the standard over the next few months. Once approved by the chiefs, my ministry will work towards an implementation and timeline. With such an important issue, such as public trust in our police on the table, I have the expectations that our ministry will work with the AACP to swiftly get body cameras onto the streets as soon as possible. We will also be working closely with the Alberta Privacy Commission to ensure that successful planning and rollout of this mandate. Once rolled out, it will be applying to frontline officers in Alberta, including the municipal police services and self-administered Indigenous police services. And I am proud to say that Alberta will be a national leader in mandated body cameras for police as we continue to position ourselves in the province as North America's leader on public safety. I encourage all of my counterparts across the country to explore body cameras and, of course, follow suit. Albertans have a right to feel safe and secure across this province, and that's precisely what we're doing here. In order for the police to be that extension, there must be a deep level of trust within the community. That's why our government is focused on assisting and building trust between police services and the community through initiatives like this. And today we are strengthening police accountability and transparency in the province that will help to ensure that every dollar that is being invested in our police service is having their intended outcome, all while ensuring that police can confidently, in a moment of crisis, in a call to action, help and protect and serve Albertans. So with that, I am going to pass it over to Chief LaGrange, who is the Vice President of the Alberta Association of Chiefs of Police, to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Ellis. Good morning. Good morning, and thank you for being here today. As Minister Ellis precluded, my name is Dean LaGrange, and I'm the Vice President of the Alberta Association of Chiefs of Police. Public trust and confidence is foundational for any law enforcement agency to effectively serve the community. Never before have there been such scrutiny on policing, and rightly so. We are provided with powers of detention and are held to a very high standard. As such, we support the announcement today that will mandate the use of body-worn cameras by law enforcement services in Alberta. Several police agencies in the province are already on this path, but we are looking forward to seeing the details of this mandate and how it will assist in standardizing our approach as we take this journey together. The cameras are a good source of protection, not only for the public, but for the police officers wearing them. They can help de-escalate situations and either reduce the number of complaints based on the video evidence, or they can speed up the complaints process itself. As we look forward to learning more about this mandate and working with the Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Services, we look forward to working with our partner agencies across the province. And at this time, I'd like to invite Chief McPhee to join us, and we'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Chief LaGrange. That brings us to the end of the formal part of the announcement, and we'll now move to media questions and answers. We have Minister Ellis, Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Services, Chief LaGrange, Alberta Association Chiefs of Police Vice President, and Chief McPhee from Edmonton Police Service to join us today. While some of the speakers may know many of the media here, I would just ask that you identify yourself and your outlet and identify whom you're addressing your question to. We have a microphone in the back for media in the room to ask their questions. I please ask that you go there to ask your questions. We're going to be starting with media in the room first. So I'll ask.
Hi there, it's Carly Robinson with City News. I'm wondering about the money required for this. Is it going to be entirely provincial? Will there be any pressure on cities to fund parts of this, or where will the money be coming from, and how much will it be costing?
Yeah, so this is why we've tasked the working group to take a look at how we can find the funds for that. Obviously, Calgary Police Service, for those of you who do not know, has body-worn cameras. They were obviously able to successfully do this. I would say this: all options are on the table, but I'm going to put it in the hands of the working group to get back to me on that.
And then I guess an adjacent question on the timeline for ACERT investigations. Right now we have cases that are taking 3 to 4 years, and we're seeing our office counted at least 8 since the beginning of February in Alberta for cases. What's happening, and what is an ideal timeline for a watchdog investigation?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, this is going to help. I'll just say this, and as you're fully aware, through Bill 6, we created the independent body, which is to do investigations, which is currently in the process. And yeah, ACERT, you know, we put an enormous amount of money. I'm sure my staff can get back to you as far as the dollar amount, we'll say, but we've put an enormous amount of money. We've increased funding to ACERT, and we're trying to get these, you know, the great men and women that are in ACERT, they're trying to get these investigations done as soon as possible. And that's really the best I can say here. We're trying to pull all levers here to help and get these investigations done.
What would be ideal?
Well, I'm not going to give a number. Okay. Thank you.
We'll go to the next question.
Good morning, it's Safe Kaiser, Global News. Minister, I'm wondering, a lot of municipalities are policed by the RCMP, so if you do mandate this for every police service in Alberta, how does that work with a federal police agency?
Sure. You know, I will maybe ask one of the chiefs to come up here as well, but I do know that there are a couple jurisdictions, you've got to forgive me, Safe, I think there are a couple jurisdictions that of the RCMP that actually do have body-worn cameras. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I do remember hearing that there's a couple that do. I do know that Public Safety Canada and actually the Prime Minister had actually, during an incident not too long ago, and I'm sure the chief would be able to reflect on that story probably better than I can, which wanted to have body-worn cameras for all the RCMP officers in Canada. And obviously there's been a rollout of that. You know, again, we've had a couple in the province of Alberta. So, yeah, I mean, these are, you know, this is kind of an ongoing process, I'll say that. But I don't know, Chief, do you have anything to add to that, or do you have anything to add?
They are. Yeah, I mean, just in relation to the RCMP, federal is already on the process of actually procuring and actually getting these. So this is obviously part of that. So within the province of Alberta, I think this announcement fits right into the direction there as well.
All right. And Safe, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I do. So I'm just wondering, will the rollout of this all be body cameras procured by every individual agency, and it's up to that police service to choose their provider, or is that going to be mandated by the province?
Look, there's going to be an open process for that. Obviously, again, Calgary was able to do that. They were able to procure their own provider. Again, these are things that the working group is going to be able to get back to me with specifics on that.
Thank you, Minister. We'll move to the next set of questions.
Allison McKinnon from CTV News, and my question is for Chief McPhee. We're talking about transparency here, and we're just wondering, you know, we had a shooting happen on Sunday night or in the early hours, and we're not hearing about those things until well after. What is the protocol, and what's the criteria to let the public know, and how do you guys decide that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I mean, actually some of the facts of that are actually the shooting were out. I mean, the details in relation to that obviously depend on each and every individual investigation. Certainly there's some concerns, and we're looking into those. There's an active investigation with several of our officers currently working on that. We know the extent of the impact on the community of that. So each and every one of those are looked at individually. Obviously, we want to release what we can, as much as we can, so the public knows. And certainly when we feel there's broader public danger in the particular area, we'll release more. But in relation to this one, we feel that the investigation is ongoing. As I said, there's several officers working on this, and right now I think what we have had the ability to release, we have, and we'll continue to evaluate that as the investigation goes along, and each and every one of them, because as you say, we truly believe too, when we need to share. So, but at sometimes we obviously don't want to jeopardize the investigation, which actually is getting the person responsible for it in custody and held accountable.
We're also talking about a shooting, right? This is this happened in the early hours. Is that not public safety? Did that, like, you know, we're just finding out about it hours after.
Well, I mean, you were aware hours after that we had a shooting. The reality is, in relation to what further details in relation to that, in what can be released, particular. Well, the comment that was asked to me earlier was video and stuff. All that stuff is going to be reviewed and the public interest will be released, but never is it going to jeopardize the investigation, because right now that's something that's very active, that has a very, very violent occurrence in our community. And first and foremost is to keep the community safe. But then the best way to do that is to get the person responsible in custody, and that's what we're focused on.
Thank you, Chief. We're going to take some calls or questions from the callers on the line. Operator, can you put through the first caller?
Arthur Green, Western Standard.
Good morning, and thank you for taking my questions. Some of them have already been answered. I just had another one. Who's going to be reviewing this footage? I mean, if officers, do have an incident which is captured, who's going to be holding them accountable for the footage?
So, sorry, Arthur, are you referring to a case where an allegation is made against a police officer? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't know, maybe one of the chiefs can talk about that.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, as the minister has articulated, Calgary Police has been doing this for quite some time, so there is a process. I think what we're going to be focused on is that the process across the province is consistent. Certainly, as ASAP and Vice President LaGrange has said, that's going to be the work that we're going to get done in short order, so we can get these cameras in place and obviously communicate to the public through that, and through the Privacy Commissioner and everything else. There needs to be a process in informing people. All of that will be part of the working committee. And I think first from our perspective, certainly on EPS perspective, increasing transparency and legitimacy in cameras is something that we've supported and we will always support. Our association and our members welcome that, because the other side of this is if you don't have this transparency, what happens is you get snapshots of video, whether it's off a cell phone, whether it's off of different cameras that only portray a picture of it, and that takes the toll on everybody, because sometimes the devil in relation to the details is a lot more than what's shown in a snapshot in time. So all those things need to be considered in a piece of policy work that we will undertake to do in short order, and then making sure that we communicate obviously with government, then ultimately both of us communicate to the public, so it's fully understood how it's going to work.
Thank you, Chief. And Arthur, do you have a follow-up?
I do. Just as a follow-up question, what are the officers saying about having to wear these body cameras?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what I know, because I did get a tour of the Calgary Police Service and the kind of the body worn cameras unit and the work that they have done there. They want it. Quite frankly, we talk about transparency, we talk about accountability, we talk about oversight, we talk about public trust. They're professionals, and my expectation of them, as I indicated in my talking points when I was giving my speech, was that they're professionals, and I expect them to act professionally. And to capture that on video of the professionalism that they're showing to the public each and every day is only going to increase public trust within the community. But I don't know if anyone of the chiefs want to add to that.
I can add a bit to that, because certainly we've had early discussions with our association and they're here today, but I would say consider about them as Minister Ellis, just to support that. The Edmonton police officers certainly would welcome this change as well. I think for their own peace of mind in relation to how they do their work, and they're not afraid to be held accountable, but that also is they want the whole story being there, and I think this will actually bring again, another piece of transparency, legitimacy, but also of comfort of those officers that, there is a piece of equipment in place that actually tells their version of the story.
I'll just maybe add to that. So this is an augmentation of technology that's already in place as well. So many agencies, including my own, have in-car digital video assets that currently utilize video evidence of our interactions with the public. This just goes a step further. So.
Great point.
Thank you. Operator, can you put through the next caller?
Catherine Grigowski, Alberta Today.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. So
the Edmonton Police did a 3-year pilot on body-worn cameras and published a report in 2015 that found that there were substantial data management issues and costs associated with this. There was no quantitative evidence that the body-worn cameras had any impact on complaints. There was no evidence that it reduced use of force incidents. So I'm wondering what changed from 2015 that there's now all this evidence that they're going to be effective.
Well, I think what has changed since then is the evidence actually in Calgary has actually looked at this as well, but it's been looked at nationally and internationally as well. The police discipline process, the complaints process, it does have an impact in relation to that that's positive. And that is something that that evidence didn't exist in the past. Also, the other piece that from the Edmonton Police Service that we're working on, what there is also to Chief LaGrange's point is that dash cam video, obviously, in the police vehicles gives a 360-degree piece of actually being able to look at the evidence. So from a process in relation to public complaints, transparency and legitimacy, there is evidence in relation to that. Some of the other pieces that you mentioned still could be a factor, but I think the bottom line in relation to the decision right now with everything that's happening and all the access to video, I think it's important. What has changed is that we actually get the complete piece of that video of the officer's involvement in the incident, particularly when we're talking about any kind of police discipline or accountability, at least that we actually captured it in real time and that we actually have that to view. So there is some more research since 2015 that actually lends to some of those changes and is part of the reason, or actually a large part of the reason, why we wholeheartedly support it.
Thank you, Chief. Catherine, do you have a follow-up?
I do. So it sounds like there's going to be a working group before this is rolled out. Is that? I'm wondering about the makeup of the working group. Is it just going to be the Association of Chiefs of Police and the Municipal Forces and Indigenous Forces, or will there be members of the public who will provide oversight on crafting these recommendations?
Yes, so this working group would fall under the subcommittee of the Alberta Association of Chiefs of Police, and we would have subject matter experts in the field, from police officers to vendors to the public and Indigenous people as well. Make sure all of their input is taken into account when we bring recommendations to the minister.
Thank you for that. We have another question on the floor, so we're just going to go to the room to answer that question. Can you please say your name and outlet and who your question's for?
Hi, David Owasik with CTV News out of Edmonton here. For the minister, given this is all about transparency and there will be hundreds of thousands of hours of footage perhaps every month, if someone has or someone deems it to be a legitimate complaint, how easy or difficult is it going to be for them to get access to that footage in the spirit of transparency?
Yeah, for sure. Maybe I might ask one of the chiefs here to supplement here, but I believe the complaint process is it 1 year? Yeah, 1 year. So obviously that footage will be stored for that period of time for the year following the interaction with that police officer. Calgary Police Service has been very successful in creating a storage database. Obviously after a certain period of time, that in order to save space, that data would be purged, but not certainly within the requirements of the Police Act for the complaint process.
Another question for you then, Mr. Minister. I'm certain that some fulsome thought has gone into some sort of oversight body, ombuds people, as it were, to do this exact thing, to look at this footage and deem it either something that the public should get access to or people with a complaint. There's been some thought to that?
Sure. I mean, as you're aware, Bill 6, right? So we're creating an independent body for all police complaints within the province of Alberta, and this would fall into that category. But I'll have the chief supplement it.
Dave, you ask a very good question, and I think to your point is, I think we got to back up and actually acknowledge some of the good work that the government has done, and certainly at the ask of a lot of our police services and our commissions and stuff. But so what we've just saw transpire in the last few months, we've had an overhaul of the Police Act. We've had the makeup of the commission shifted to store some balance in relation to it. They're in the process of building a whole new investigative realm that's outside of policing, and now the next part of that is to add body-worn cameras. There's several processes in place. The reality is they all work in conjunction with each other, and I want to commend the government for the work that they've done on public safety. I mean, certainly we're all under fire in all of our communities, but when we actually deal with this is an actually number of announcements right up to the announcement that was made in Calgary the other day about dealing with gang violence. This is what we as police chiefs want to see from certainly our leaders, to actually look at this in a continuum and not just look at it in a piece by piece. And I think when you add all these things up, as it gets rolled out, I think it's going to put us in a much better place than we are today.
Thank you, Chief. We have time for one more set of questions, so we're going to be going through the phone lines. Operator, can you put through the next caller?
Lisa Johnson, Edmonton Journal. Hi, thanks for taking my question. This is for the minister, but if Chief McPhee would like to weigh in as well, that would be helpful. Obviously, we have challenges here in Edmonton as members of the media in accessing some information around police activity. As you know, we can't listen to the police scanners, where we've been told not to contact supervising officers, for example. And this footage essentially is meaningless if it's not accessible to the public. So will there be any requirements for sharing this camera footage in a timely fashion when requested by the media? 1 year is not timely.
Well, I mean, I don't have an answer for you as it relates to the Calgary Police Services protocol here, because obviously they're the ones that have currently rolled this out. But I will say this, is that transparency is very key. Public trust is very key to this, and that is kind of the overarching vision, we'll say, that I have. But again, these are the kind of details that are going to be kind of hammered out in the working group. They're going to provide recommendations to me. Do you want to supplement that?
Not sure what I'd add to that, other than I think it's important that we look at this for what it is. I mean, obviously, it's the ability, when there is police complaints, to look at this, when there's investigative files at this. But I don't think we want to just look at this as we're going to just start putting video in the mainstream media when there's no reason to. So I think each and every one of those, to the minister's point, needs to be looked at. That's what the committee, and certainly that we'll be discussing. As also mentioned by the minister, I think Calgary's had video for 3 years, more than 3 years. And the public likes it, and certainly they have a lot of good things happening from that. We're seeing it going nationally with the RCMP, and I think those are things that we have to iron out, but I think we got to make sure that it's used for the intent it is, and that we have some strong policy around that.
Thank you. And Lisa, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, obviously, communication is the key here. Communication can be a big bottleneck, and what I'm hearing is that those decisions as to whether or not to communicate these things clearly could be arbitrary. But my follow-up is, I don't see any timeline for the rollout, and obviously there's no specific costing. This is going to come out of the working group. When exactly will the working group's deadline be? When will it report to the government, and when will its report be made public, if at all?
Well, I think I said in my remarks, I mean, they're going to get started on this very soon. And, my expectation over the next 3 or 4 months is at least they come back to me with a bit of a draft as to kind of what the feedback they've gotten, the people they've consulted with. And then for those of you that I know there was some mention of Indigenous organizations, the police, Indigenous Police Services, they are a part of the Alberta Association of Chiefs of Police, and they will be absolutely involved in crafting with the two chiefs next to me here as to how this is going to look.
All right. Thank you, Minister. That's all we have time for today. Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.